here's the thing, and I joke around with that. This is a joke, but I do it also. So one of the things I do is whenever I'm in ChatGPT, I always say please and thank you. And I know that you don't have to do that.
I'm polite too.
But well, yeah, I do it for a couple reasons. Number one is it helps me mentally feel like I'm talking to another human.
Yeah, it does humanize it.
So it does humanize. For me, it does. And you don't have to do it. There's no value in doing it.
Yeah.
But for me, mentally, it helps. But just in case the Terminator robots do come for us, they're going to remember I was nice.
Right.
Right. So.
Welcome to another episode of Minding My Business. Today we have Rajeev Kapur, CEO of a leading media and marketing company, 1105 Media, where he drives growth for B2B enterprise technology companies. Not only that, he's also a best-selling author of AI Made Simple and an international speaker. Welcome, Rajeev.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to have you on because I've been following your work for a while and you're just so impressive. And I know myself and even really all of our clients we're all kind of like AI, and everyone's like, okay, ChatGPT. And then it's like, then what? And I'm really curious, like how you think companies should start evolving, let's move away from chat for a second, ChatGPT or like the basic chat programs. Like when you think of AI, can you tell me what you're thinking of?
Yeah. So in my mind, there are 6 key takeaways for AI success that a business needs to think about. So let's just go through those real quick.
Yeah, I would love that.
Number 1 is this has to be top down. This is not like what's Twitter, what's Instagram, what's TikTok, go get the intern, come and teach me, have them come and teach us what to do. This has to literally be at the CEO level. If they are not 100% committed to AIifying their business, using AI to go out and drive new demand, new customers, to drive new marketing, whatever they want to do, it just won't work. It has to start with the CEO. You're starting to see some more of that, like the Shopify CEO has now come out and said, for example, hey, no new hires until you can prove that a human, basically, well, we can adjust this part, but basically he came out and said, no new humans in the company until you can prove that you need a human, that AI can't do the job.
Oh, I love that.
So, but that's an example like where I think things are going to start headed down in the future. So it's got to be top down. Like you literally, like the CEO, the president, whoever they are, they need to own it. So they need to own it. Then the C-suite has to buy into it. And I hate to say this and be so direct, but if there's anybody on the C-suite that doesn't want to be a part of this, that doesn't want to own it, that doesn't want to evolve with this, then they need to go. Yeah. It's like, can you imagine what it was like if you drove into the internet and you said, this is ridiculous.
That's what I think of that. When I think of AI and how we're like evolving, I do think it's that time where I remember even with like social and even with the internet when it first came out, like I remember just like pleading with companies, including some of family businesses that are my family's businesses. And I would be like, you've got to get on social. You've got to do this. And like, they're just like, no, I don't want to be there. And today those businesses they're troubled. Like they are. Like, yeah. And I knew it was coming. And this is, I feel like, very similar.
Well, that takes us to number 2, which is you have to be extremely curious, not judgmental. And I'll give you a fun story. So I used to be an executive at Dell a long time ago, like in a past life.
Oh, amazing.
And I worked for Michael for a bit.
Wait, in Dell, you were behind like significant business growth with Dell too, right?
Yeah. So my first job was I started as a 100% commission salesperson for an old computer company called Gateway out of South Dakota.
I remember Gateway.
Yeah. So I was there. And after a couple of years of being there and sticking in that cold weather, I'm like, all right, this is not for me. And I'm a Southern California boy, born and bred, like literally was born in Pasadena and I grew up like 10 minutes from here, right? In Granada Hills.
Local.
So I'm local, right? And so, okay, this Southern California boy does not like living in the cold that much. Yeah. So I sent a resume in to Dell and I got hired. And after a few months of being at Dell, Michael said, hey, why don't you come up and work for me for a bit? And I did. And one of the things that happened was after about a year or two, we were sitting in a boardroom and he walks in with this box. And on the box was written the word Mosaic. And for those of you who don't know, Mosaic was the very first internet browser that eventually became Netscape.
Oh, amazing.
Right.
I do remember Mosaic too.
Yeah. And so he said, go figure out how to sell computers on this thing. We're like, what are you talking about? what is this thing? The internet? No one's ever going to buy anything on the internet. So that was like our first kind of comment. And so we were being highly judgmental. We weren't being curious. So that's like the second lesson learned here when it comes to AI. You got to be curious, not judgmental. And if you want to remember that closely, if you ever watched the Ted Lasso show, remember there's a scene and I took that statement because it really resonated with me. There was a scene in the show where Ted's playing darts, and something happened, and he said, hey, if people just realized that I used to play darts with my dad, they would not have been so judgmental. They'd been more curious about my skill set. And so you have to be really curious here. You can't be judgmental. Everybody on the team has to be curious because the AI space is moving so fast. Like the internet was a land grab. So think about this table as the internet, and you just built on top of on the land, right? But that's not what AI is. AI is changing every minute. The worst AI is ever going to be is right now. And the worst AI tomorrow is going to be is tomorrow at 11:19.
Right. It is rapidly,
right? So
literally
rapid. And there's new AI
evolving.
solutions coming out every day, and it's so much, and it's really overwhelming. But so you have to be curious and judgmental. And then that takes us to number 3, which is at the end of the day, what's really important for companies, and if the CEOs, the presidents, and your audience that's listening, the marketing people, it's all about data. It starts and stops with data. Like AI is not successful unless there's amazing data. So really, you have to, like I've talked to probably over 3,000 CEOs around the world in the last 18 to 24 months. And I can count on 2 hands and 2 feet how many people raise their hand when I ask the question, how many have good command of your first party data? Because people just think of that as an expense. It's not. It's going to be something that's going to help drive valuation. It's going to drive customer engagement in the future. It's going to drive personalization.
Sorry. I had to sneeze.
Yeah, no worries. But it's going to drive personalization in the future. It's going to drive everything. Your entire business is going to be driven by data. So when you think about your PR company, right, think about what that data you're collecting and how can you use that data to exploit an advantage over your competitors, for example.
How do you suggest we start doing that for companies who really don't have a good grasp on their data?
Well, here's the thing. They're all getting data. So the first thing you got to do is you have to start understanding and familiarizing yourself with what kind of data you have. So either you go to a company, like one of my companies is called TDWI. That's T like Tom, D like David, W as in whiskey, I as in India. Go to tdwi.com. Go see what they have, go to their events, go to their seminars, go learn what they're doing. So that's kind of just to start the process, just to educate yourself, number 1. Number 2, from there is go see about bringing on a data scientist, a data analyst type person who can come in and really understand your data. You probably don't need a full-time one, but you have to spend a little bit of CapEx there. Make sure your data systems are aligned. Make sure you can pull information out of your database about everything. Because it's going to drive the future. And we'll talk about why that's going to be important in a minute. But data. And here's the thing. Data is going to be the new oil. And if you think about oil, like the oil industry, you can't do anything with raw crude. Right. You have to build refineries to turn it into something. Right. So the same as data. Data is essentially raw crude, but it's useless unless you turn it into something. And that something is going to be predictive analytics. It's going to be the backbone behind personalization. It's going to be the backbone. It's really the backbone behind AI. And there's 2 kinds of AI, right? There's machine learning AI, which has been around forever. And then there's generative AI, which is all the ChatGPT stuff. And machine learning AI, everybody who's listening has already experienced machine learning AI. That's like when you watch Amazon. When you go to Amazon and you buy a product, at the bottom it says, oh, well, people bought this product, also bought this product. Or because you
might
read,
also like these 5 items. And I'm like, matter of fact, I do.
Because you read this book, we recommend this book. So that's machine learning. So Amazon's learning your buying habits. You go on Instagram. If you're looking, like for me, I'm a big Laker fan. They lost last night, so they're done. But my feed is full of Laker stuff or travel stuff or
personalization.
So it gets personalized because it knows my habits. Netflix. At the end of a Netflix show, it gives you the thumbs up or thumbs down. Right. If you do thumbs up, it's going to say, okay, great. Danny likes that, and so we're going to send her more stuff based like that show, so she can increase her viewer minutes and make it stickier. Right. So that's all machine learning. And then you have the generative AI stuff with all the ChatGPT and Perplexity and Gemini and all these other cool things that are now coming out. That's driving change across businesses at a light speed. So that's like number 3. Number 4 is this. This is not about artificial intelligence. It's about augmenting intelligence.
Can you explain that? Unpack that a little bit.
Yeah. So where people get really scared is when they hear the word artificial. Oh my God, I'm talking to a robot. Oh my God, I'm talking to an algorithm. Right. And, and if first, here's the thing, and I joke around that this is a joke, but I do it also. So one of the things I do is whenever I'm in ChatGPT, I always say please and thank you. And I know that You don't have to do that.
I'm polite too.
But well, yeah, I do it for a couple reasons. Number one is it helps me mentally feel like I'm talking to another human.
Yeah, it
right?
does humanize it.
So it does humanize. For me, it does. And you don't have to do it. There's no value in doing it.
Yeah.
But for me, mentally, it helps. But just in case the Terminator robots do come for us, they're going to remember I was nice.
Right.
Right. So, but I mean, all joking aside, it's about augmenting what we do. If we start looking at these as tools to enhance what we do, that'll make our lives much easier. So think of it this way. I am 57 and...
Oh, you look much younger.
All right. Thank you. I'm 57. And so I remember, and maybe you don't remember, but there used to be a time before PowerPoint.
Yeah.
What did we have to do?
I mean, I don't even before
overhead
PowerPoint.
projectors with the
the
plastic markers. We had to create our slides.
Like, before PowerPoint, there's nothing.
Right. So we had to create our slides, right? And then you have to go put the plastic thing on the overhead projector and to project it on the wall and all that, right?
Yeah.
And so, but when PowerPoint came out, it was like, oh my God, it augmented what we did. It saved us so much time and energy and effort. It changed the game of presentation and communicating business KPIs and goals and whatever, anything, right? Raising money is all on PowerPoint. You know what I mean? So my point, it changed the game. Excel, before you had Excel, what were you doing? You're writing in general ledger sheets,
right?
Word, you were typing, right? So all these things enhanced our intelligence. They augmented what we were already doing. Some people used to have those old HP finance calculators where you can calculate net present value. That was essentially AI in a little calculator, right? So those are all things that augmented what we do. This is augmenting what we do. If you think of these as tools to augment what you do, you're going to be that much further ahead.
Yeah.
So, and if you can do that, you'll do the one thing money can't do, which is
buy back your time.
Buy time. 100%. You got it. Which is buy time. Think of it this way. A task that maybe took 5 business days might take only 1 business day.
Oh yeah. We're doing that. Like we've been doing that at Society 22. Like we have been able to cut our time down and tasks that are just like non-impactful and increase our pitch time, which does require it's not something that AI can do. You can use AI a little bit in pieces of it, but it's storytelling and stuff, there's still the human element. But I really love that we've been able to, something I really like that we've been able to do is build out our own agents for each client. Yeah. So their voice is so specific when we're doing quotes and you can't just answer it. The publications have their own thing. They're like, AI, you're out of here. Yeah. You answered that. But no, it's been amazing. And I think that people should definitely embrace it. I know it's been incredible for us.
I'll give you another example, right? Yeah. So I'll give you 2 examples. So I'm a member of YPO, right? The Young Presidents Organization. I joined it when I was young people. So, so I've done a ton of case studies with YPO members around the world. So I'll give you 2. So I worked with the very first one I ever did on when it came to kind of this ChatGPT new world we were in. It's after I released the book. It was a couple months later. The book came out in September of 2023. And by November of 23, I was talking to this firm in Europe. And they're one of the oldest beauty brands in Europe. And they wanted to come up with a new formula that aesthetically did something different.
Okay.
And I can't tell too much because of an NDA, but they were trying for 3 years to come up with a formula. 3 years.
Wow.
And so I was in their board meeting, and they had a couple of the board members. They had the chief scientist was at that table, a marketing person, the president of the company, and the CEO. Mm-hmm. 6 or 7 people in the room plus. And they were stuck. And I asked them the question, if you could have one new product or solution that could transform the business, what would it be? And they said, oh, well, we've been trying for 3 years to come up with a solution for this problem we have, or a rather problem, but a real opportunity we think exists in the marketplace, but we're stuck. I said, okay, let's put it in ChatGPT. And this was November of 23,
okay.
Right? And so almost 19 months ago. And so we just got into ChatGPT. This was before all the advanced models you have now. Just started typing in a prompt, got their feedback, got the board members' feedback, got the chief scientist, his feedback, everybody else, the marketing people, the president, got all their feedback. We created a prompt with 300-400 words, hit enter. It took us 15, 16 minutes to write the prompt. In 30 seconds, it spit out a formula for the solution that they've been looking for. And they literally sat there in awe and they're like, oh my God, we never thought of that.
Wow.
And, it's something that they were stuck on for 3 years. They were able to kickstart the whole thing because now they've got this formula that ChatGPT put out. So obviously they're not done. So they took that formula and they started testing the formula, and now they're making derivatives of the formula.
Oh, wow.
And they told me when I spoke to her a few months ago, she said, "Look, Rajeev, we've been using the formula, we've been testing the formula, we've been making derivatives of the formula, and so far things have been positive, and we've made some tweaks, and if it works, it could add $1 billion to our bottom line."
Stop.
And it took 15 minutes. That's something they were stuck on for 3 years.
Yeah.
So that's an example of buying time.
Yeah.
Right. Here's another example. So I recently did a talk to a YPO member company out in Oregon.
Okay.
And they were stuck. Like, I wouldn't say they were stuck. Like, the CEO of the company, she is amazing. She was all into AI, uses it all the time. She has a family member who's also a member who's in the company, who really close with, great guy. Mm-hmm. But he was just kind of a little iffy on AI. Mm-hmm. And so I asked him the same question. And one of the challenges, they do a lot of drilling work, not like oil drilling, but other things. Okay. So they go around and they'll like go to quarries and they'll drill into the quarries and they'll extract the stone to turn it into stuff for streets and whatever, right? So here they are. What they found was that their drill bits that they use to drill into the ground, they have to change every other day.
Oh, wow.
And so that means they have to send a team out there to change the drill bit every other day. And they have to have a ton of drill bits in inventory,
right,
for all their different sites, but then have teams out there every other day just going out there, just constantly changing. And they looked at me and said, "Well, do you think ChatGPT can help us come up with our own drill bit?" I go, "Yeah. Why not?" So this was about 3 weeks ago I did this, and we went in there and we did the thing. We wrote the prompt and we said, "Well, what does it need to be? Like, what's the competitor drill bit? What are the specs you're looking for? Whatever." And we put it in the prompt and enter, and it spit out how they can get their own drill bit manufactured. It spit out where they can get it manufactured, who in the U.S. It asked, "Do you want international manufacturing or U.S. manufacturing?" They said, "We want U.S. manufacturing." Where they can get it manufactured in the U.S., it gave them 4 options. We then asked it to create the RFP.
Oh,
so
wow.
It created in real time the RFP that they can now just take. They literally all have to do is copy it. They made a couple of tweaks to it. Then we asked it to create the patent. So then it wrote the patent right there. And this whole exercise took 30 minutes. We asked it to create the marketing plan, the name of come up with the brand. They said they said, "Do you want to sell this to your competitors so they can buy your drill bit versus buying that other manufacturer's drill bits?" Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they killed the whole marketing plan for that, a whole sales plan for that, literally in 30 minutes. So it's a game changer for them. And so they're taking that, they're getting RFPs to get their own drill bits manufactured. Now here's the punchline. The punchline is that if that drill bit is as good as what they're getting and they think it can be, it can go from changing a drill bit every other day to every 20 days.
Wow.
Game changer.
That would be huge in their industry,
Huge,
period.
huge,
right? And
right?
not just for their own company,
Right.
but their competitors too.
And so that takes me to number 6 of my 6 key takeaways, which is the key to success in AI for 99% of the people on the planet is going to be how well you talk to ChatGPT and other AI tools. So you got to learn how to be a storyteller.
Yes.
All those English majors, guess what? Your time is here. Your time is now, right? Like all you liberal arts degree kids, hey, it's
the glow up is about to happen.
It's about to happen because you have to be a storyteller. Your inner Disney has to come out. Like I'm looking around this room, right? You got The Matrix, you got Gremlins, you got Pokemon stuff, you got like all this stuff around, right? You've got Monsters Inc., you got Big Lebowski, you got Tom Cruise over there from Risky Business. So, Godzilla. So it's that imagination. The more people are imaginative, the more they learn how to talk and communicate within AI, they're the ones who are going to really kind of own the world in the future. So become a storyteller. You don't have to be a prompt engineer or any of that stuff and
right.
all that, but you got to learn how to prompt. And
I agree.
So, and I have a book coming out called Prompting Made Simple here in a couple months. So, but anyways, but you have to learn how to prompt. And at the end of the day, it's just not going to be an option. Just like the internet was not an option over time, this is not going to be an option. You have to do this. And if people are worried about job loss, the people that are for sure going to lose their jobs are the ones that don't embrace AI because you're going to lose it to someone that does. So those are the 6 key takeaways for AI success.
When we think about prompting and you're like, oh, you need to learn how to be a better prompter, I think that's like easier said than done. And I think people who have people who are fantastic delegators, I've noticed are great prompters. Like if they know how to delegate and train and like their prompts are like they can get out of ChatGPT or any of them, like remarkably different output than someone who maybe doesn't know quite how to like prompt. So is there like a methodology or something that like a framework that someone can think of that maybe all of these like literary specialists and things that people do, like I think a lot of stuff comes naturally for me and I don't really know why I know how to explain it in certain ways, but for people who don't and are struggling, what would you tell them to do?
Well, first of all, it's okay to struggle. It's fine if you're struggling. I'll give you a life hack when it comes to prompting in about 30 seconds. But there's a certain, at the end of the day, to be a really good prompter, there's different styles of prompting. So the best way to do a prompt is the role, task, context, ask prompt method, which is
role, task, context, ask.
Okay.
Okay.
So RTCA. So you give ChatGPT a role. So hey ChatGPT, I want you to be Danny Graveline, the leading PR person, in the country.
Make sure you throw a snap in there.
In the country. Okay. That's the role that you're giving ChatGPT.
Global.
And so you give ChatGPT that role globally. All right. So
love it.
Got it. So that's the role.
Okay.
Now the task is, I want your help coming up with a PR plan that helps me become a thought leader in the AI space. Or rather, yeah. That's fine. You get the idea. Here's the context. The context is, I have the third edition of my best-selling book, AI Made Simple, coming out. I have Prompting Made Simple coming out. I am CEO of a marketing and media technology company. We covered data, AI, cyber infrastructure at 1105 Media. That's context. By the way, I'm happy to go globally and talk to anybody that's willing to listen. So that's, you probably need more context.
Yeah.
Right. And then the ask is, create a 10-step plan that helps me become the thought leader in this space by June 1st, 2026.
Oh, I like that you're throwing a date in there.
So, but because that's essentially your ask, right? So the other way you could do, so then you hit enter and it gives you a plan. So, but the more information you provided about me, like in this case, if you were doing it, or if I was doing it pretending to be you, then the more information I have, the better. Right. So the more you can talk to ChatGPT, the more you give, the better. So just look how to expand your role, the task, the content, and the ask. Now, another way you might do this, for example, is people might say, okay, you can use it now, for example, to plan your vacations. Role, be an expert travel agent. Task, I want you to come up with a 5-day task is help plan a vacation in the south of France. Context, 4 and 5-star hotels.
Right.
I want a James Bond type experience, or whatever it might be, right? So whatever context. Oh no, by the way, I'm vegetarian. I'm not, but you know what I mean?
Right.
So you give it that, so it knows, or I'm allergic to nuts.
Right.
So it knows, so it can build around that. And the ask is provide a 10-day itinerary along with airlines, tours that we can take, blah, blah, all the details down to plan it to the minute. And oh, by the way, I want to stay someplace that's on the ocean.
I love it.
Right. So it's that way. So that's probably the optimal way to write a prompt.
Should you be creating like different chats within your ChatGPT or whatever, so that like, okay, if I'm going to be working on this, like, let me just keep going back to this one so I don't have to constantly say like, oh, I'm this person, or do you need to repeat your role?
So ChatGPT has a memory function now.
Oh, okay.
So it remembers, right? So let's say, for example, we'll use, let's use a travel agent example again. So let's say it plans out the travel for this trip to the south of France.
Yep.
And there's, you know what? Something's come up. Can't go to south of France. Instead, I got to go to England. Instead of doing that on that same prompt, right?
Yep.
You can do it on the same prompt if you want. I always like to start a fresh prompt so it doesn't mix and match. It doesn't hallucinate the prompt or the result. So I then start a new one. I just, hey, I need you to be travel agent, John Doe, and help me with my plan. The same thing goes for.
Can you say like, plan me something like you did in the south of France, but I want it to be this country.
Yeah, we no longer can go to south of France. You can do it on the same prompt. Hey, if we no longer something's come up, we can no longer go to south of France. Well, but you have to say that something's come up. You know what I mean? So so they have to be somewhat scientific there from that perspective. But no, once you tell it who you are, And once you do the persona-based stuff, it'll always do that. So, for example, when I'm doing stuff in business, I always try to give ChatGPT the persona of Steve Jobs, just because I love Steve Jobs, especially Steve Jobs 2.0, not Steve Jobs 1.0. And so, it'll say, okay, well, let's create a plan as if it was Steve Jobs who are guiding you. If you want to learn how to trade stocks, well, tell it to act like Warren Buffett. Right? If you have a kid who's struggling in math, well, who's the best tutor, living or dead, that you could ever get to teach a kid math? Einstein.
I was going to say Einstein.
Yeah, Einstein. So you can literally go to ChatGPT and say,
Okay.
hey, ChatGPT, here's my daughter, or my son, and she is in the 10th grade and she's taking calculus and she's struggling with this formula. Can you please act like Albert Einstein and walk her through how to solve this problem? Don't give the answer. Help her walk her through step by step.
That's smart.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's persona-based prompting.
Okay.
Let's say you can have fun with it. Let's say you're giving the toast at a wedding, but you want to do it in the voice of Snoop Dogg, or you want to do it in the voice of The Rock, or you want to do it in the voice of Ryan Reynolds or Trump or Obama, whatever. It doesn't matter, right? Whoever it might be, you can just do this in the voice of so and so, right? So you can do that, So that's kind of persona-based prompting, RTCA we talked about. The one that also gets a lot of buzz is chain prompting, which is conversational prompting.
Okay.
Where you're not sure how to start and you're just like
ask me what you need to know. Here's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, you can name ChatGPT. So you can give it a name. You can say, instead of saying, hey,
what's
ChatGPT.
your ChatGPT's name?
I have the mobile version on my phone, and that one I just picked. That one is Sky. So that voice is Sky.
Oh, okay.
So, but you can then have, so you can just go, hey, Sky, I'm thinking about doing something for my son for his graduation. What do you think?
Right.
And then I'll say, well, where's he graduating from, or what's going on? Then you're just having a conversation, and that works really well, especially in the car. And you can have the mobile version.
Yeah, I love that. I'm always talking to it in the car.
Right. And then you can get into more interviewing based prompting, right? So interviewing is like, hey, I'm meeting with Rajeev. What questions would you ask him? You pretend to be Rajeev Kapur and I'll be me, and let's do a quick mock interview.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever it might be.
Media training.
Yeah. So those are the different kind of prompting methods.
So if the top down with integrating AI, I agree with that. The same thing with PR. I'm always like, it needs to come from the top. Do not hand your PR off to your marketing team when you do not have a very strong established presence. And I feel like there's some similarities. It really needs to happen from the top. So how would you suggest that a CEO right now, would you suggest that they're kind of using a chat? I always say ChatGPT. I know there's other ones, but that's my main one that I use.
Yeah, me too.
Would you suggest that they start trying to make it a part? It's almost like they're in the meeting too, thinking about cause I'm sure I'm even just thinking of some of my clients that, they might be wanting to hand it off, because it is one of those things where it's kind of like technology that's a difficult thing to understand sometimes. It's either I want to hand this off because this is just too much for my brain to learn, or I'm so crazy with it that I'm doing it, but I'm not even thinking about the output of it. And then the team is grabbing these marketing plans and stuff. And it's okay, slow down. These are good starting points. But yeah, what would you suggest that they do as micro habits every day to start building up to figuring out how they could really use this in their business?
So number one, that's a good question. So number one, they have to start leading by example. What I do every day is there's a couple of accounts on Instagram I might follow, or there might be a couple of accounts on Twitter I might go check out, Reddit.
What accounts? Could you put them? Well, you can send them to me after, and I'll put them in the description.
So on Instagram, evolving AI and Whiz of AI are pretty good to follow on Instagram. My company, we have a great newsletter from a B2B perspective called Pure AI. If you go to pureai.com, you can check it out. That's a great one that I follow. There's a newsletter called TLDR, Too Long Don't Read.
Yeah.
AI.
I'm on that newsletter too.
So there's that newsletter. So the thing of it is that all these companies are doing is they're just aggregating all the stuff that's happening every day.
Right.
They're not doing anything to add value other than aggregating everything because it's changing so fast. So you want to follow one or two places that is aggregating stuff that can summarize what's happening on a real-time basis almost. Right. So that's number one. And then and as you start following these accounts, as you start seeing things, start sending that an email to your teams. Hey guys, if you see something for marketing, Canva for marketing, for example, Canva's AI solutions for marketing is an absolute game changer.
Yeah,
it's a cheat code. It's a cheat code for marketers.
Canva was a cheat code, period.
Yeah, but now you got the AI on top of it, right? And their AI solutions, so you send that to your marketers. Guys, check out what Canva's doing now. Check it out, right? There's new SEO coming. SEO is going to be really important in the future because AI is pulling from the web, and so the better you're in SEO, but you have to figure out what are the best AI agencies who are really adapting to an SEO driven, to an AI driven world using SEO. That's going to be important. So you want to send that to marketers. If there's an opportunity for agents, for example, you and I were talking about agents before the start of this. Like every one of your salespeople should have an agent. Everything marketers over time, everybody's going to have their own agent.
Right.
And so it's just about start small. So just start getting information out to people, right? And then what you want to do is you want to start going back and you want to look at all your operations, all your opportunities from an operational perspective.
Yep.
And say, how do we start AIifying our stuff? And then number three, like I said earlier, and this probably should be number one, which is understand your data. Like, what is your data telling you? And then start asking yourself, what can we do with our data? What refinery can we build on top of our data to have it do something? Right?
I feel very inspired to start training ChatGPT after this conversation to replace me, but obviously not replace me, but in that context, so I can be just feeding it more information so it is more helpful to my team and stuff. Because I think that would be, and what you mentioned too with SEO, I'm really pushing our clients. We do PR, so I'm it's volume right now. Do not even worry about every single feature. You need to be in there all the time, because one of our board members, his company is the ones, but they do the data behind all of these big Meta, Microsoft. They are the ones that's how Chat or OpenAI or whatever is saying this is how it's feeding into the answers. They're the actual company behind that, with the people that are confirming whether that's yes, that's a correct prompt, or that's a correct answer or whatever. So we're always working really closely with them to be okay, how are they pulling it? How are these because there's an actual human right now anyways behind verifying yes, this answer makes sense, no it doesn't, this is accurate, this isn't, even as small as when Chat pulls a source, here's what it is, there is right now literally humans behind there saying yes or no to that. So I'm always really careful, really into where, okay, how are they finding this? Is it a top search? You were saying SEO, how do we make sure that our clients are showing up in these AI models now too? And I think and you do a lot of that work as well. So I would like you to talk about that a little bit too. How do we make sure that our how we search now, it's different. People are literally using Chat as a search. I am, even myself.
Yeah. And, here's the thing. I think, 6 months ago, I would tell people don't use it as a search engine because it's not a search engine. So now they have search capability built into it, which is partner with Microsoft's Bing search engine, right? Because Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI ChatGPT, right? So here's the thing. If you go on Google and you do a search, your first results now are AI searches from Gemini. And what's happening is now you get the Gemini AI result.
Yeah.
Then you get the sponsored result.
Yeah.
Then you get the natural organic result. So you're going below
even
the fold,
further,
even further down. So what's happening, and I wonder what's going to happen is if most people, and I don't know the stats behind this, but I wonder how many people are just stopping at the AI search and not even going down anymore.
Most of them, there is that we are that is definitely happening.
So if that's the case, then if that's the case, then the only way to combat that is you've got to do massive content overload. You've got to flood. If you're listening to this and you're worried about it's not even about SEO as much as it's content.
Yeah.
You have to flood your industry, your market, whatever you do with content.
Yeah.
Content. Look, we all learned the 4 Ps in school: product, price, placement, promotion.
Yep.
Right? That's fine. That's still valid. I call it the 4 Cs now. And to me, it's content drives community drives commerce drives cash. So you have to overload your content. If you're thinking you're putting out content, you're not doing enough. You literally need to 5x the amount of content. So if you're, so for example, if you're putting out 5 pieces of content a day on all of your social feeds or wherever, that's got to be 25 pieces of content a day. And I think, oh my God, I can't afford that. No, well, you have to figure out how to afford it. B, freelance it if you have to.
Do whatever you need to do.
And there's AI tools that can help make that stuff more efficient, right? Faceless videos, faceless stuff, right? And the one thing this past election taught me is this is no longer a traditional media way to get out the message. You have to be relevant on YouTube. You have to be relevant on podcasts. You have to be relevant on social. In the B2B world where I play in, look, B2B is hard, right? B2B is hard because B2B is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Yeah. Because nobody ever goes to a B2B website for fun. And so because of that, you have to figure out how to do it. So you got to just start being more relevant on all those channels, even from a B2B perspective. And just because it's going to help your results.
I think CEOs also have to personally shift their priority into what you're talking about, which is like content creation, it's media appearances, it's getting out there. Like that needs to be priority over some of the big projects that they think require all their time, because especially in B2B enterprise technology, like it's even more so because those companies have been so used to not having to be the face of it. And we've already seen how founder-led marketing has been taking over. Like we saw that years ago. I already saw that coming. I was like, okay, personal brands, executive branding. But now, like if they don't start doing that, even like the success that they've had, I feel like it's going to be like those businesses who refuse to get on social media.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about AI and social media is that the one thing they have in common is that the good news is everybody has access to social media and AI. The bad news is everybody has access to social media and AI, right? So everything's getting democratized. So everybody now has the same tools. It doesn't matter if you're a small PR agency in Egypt, or a small PR agency in Hong Kong, or a small agency in Southern California or New York, wherever. Everybody has the same tools. How you now deploy the tools, how you build a better mousetrap with those tools is what's going to allow you to create that little moat around your business to really help you distinguish yourself. You don't have to do any of this. Like people could be listening, and if you think I am full of what, that's fine. Like I get it. I understand. This is not easy to hear. It's not easy to learn. It's not easy to embrace. And you don't have to do anything. But I would hate for anybody listening to become blockbusters of someone's Netflix.
Literally that. And they will. I mean, I already see it happening in my agency. We've been getting some pretty big accounts from like big agencies that normally I would never be able to compete with, and we're getting them. One of our clients just made the Forbes billionaires list. And I know, but I've been on top of things, and where our agency is different. It's data driven. It's like our methodology is different. Everything about it is different. And I think that's what's like creating the opportunities for me, because I'm faster, I'm better, I'm more reliable. Like it doesn't take me long to get a campaign off the ground. Like those sort of things where those bigger, like top 5 agencies, now they're doing layoffs. Now they're, entire departments are gone and stuff. Yeah. So I think that's where like you're saying, like you don't have to listen, but if you don't start figuring this out now, you're going to just be so far behind.
Yep.
And someone like me is going to come up and steal your business. No.
Yeah. I mean, good for you, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and I always am like, I'm going to want to stay on the edge of that too, because it's, you can't get comfortable. Yeah. We're in a really rapidly changing time right now.
It's changing. Like, as I mentioned earlier, right? The internet was a land grab. Here's the internet, and you built on the internet.
Yep.
There's no land here. This is constantly waves are churning and doing this, and it's changing. And one minute the waves are going this way. The next minute the waves are going this way. Then they're going this way, right? And the next way they're crashing here, right? Because every day there's a new tool coming out. In fact, it's so overwhelming. So you said you only use ChatGPT. Guess what? I use ChatGPT 95% of the time. I mean, it's fine. It works just fine. I mean, look, what's going to happen over time, just like anything, is there's going to be consolidation.
Yeah.
Right? When Google first came out with their search engine, there was like 7 different search engines. Yahoo, Lycos, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, right? There was a whole bunch, right? And then over time, those things got consolidated, right? And over time, this stuff is just going to get consolidated as well. And what will happen is OpenAI and Google and Claude by Anthropic Grok. Those 4 are more broader type AIs. Meta just announced their kind of ChatGPT competitor. But I think you're going to see the 3 or 4 broader based AIs, and then you'll see a bunch of vertical AIs. So for example, you'll have your own vertical AI just for PR, just for your business.
Right.
People, I think over time will have their own LLMs, private LLMs for their own companies. So for example,
what's an LLM?
The large language model. Basically, the large language model.
You were talking about like a business entity. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no. So ChatGPT is essentially an LLM, right? So like you and I were talking about SaaS.
Right.
SaaS models, right? SaaS is probably going to be fine in the future, but if anybody's listening to this, and if you got any SaaS clients listening to this, it's not going to be software as a service anymore. It's going to be intelligence as a service. It's what is that SaaS doing to provide intelligence and a data breakthrough for their clients? How can that SaaS turn the CIO, the marketing officer, and the salespeople at a company into chief intelligence officers to drive revenue and efficiencies in a business? So whether you're using Salesforce or Asana or whatever SaaS you're using,
right?
SAP, whatever, my question that I would ask the CEOs of those companies is, and I think Salesforce is trying to do a pretty good job there because they're building out the whole agent force and everything like that. They're the ones I hear about more. IBM's doing some things there. But it's all about answering the question, how do we move from software as a service to intelligence as a service? And how do we provide that intelligence to make our clients better? Like at 1105, our tagline is your growth is our business.
Yeah.
Literally, that's what you have to become. Like how does that drive their customer growth through intelligence that we can provide them?
Yep.
That's where I think SaaS is going to go. It has to go. At least that's my opinion.
I mean, I think that's where we want it to go, because as we continue to make more data-driven decisions and we see how great that is and how much it moves our business forward, we're going to be itching for like these platforms to become more evolved. I mean, I use Monday and I'm already like, like, why doesn't it do this? Because now that like we track certain data, I'm like, why isn't this integrated? Like they have to like get on top of this stuff.
Yeah. Look, I think with everything, this stuff evolves, right? If you think of AI as a game, like a baseball game,
yeah,
we are in the first inning and literally only the first pitch has been thrown. That's how early this game is.
We're still figuring out our teams.
Right. We're still like we're just still like literally the lineup card just went in, right? So Monday, 2 years from now, is going to be so highly intelligent than what it is today. Right. That it's going to evolve completely. Like if you think about where the future of AI and just generative AI world is going, it's really quite crazy when you start thinking about the opportunities, right? I think, we're going to be living in a world where all diseases in the next 10 to 15 years could be cured.
I can't wait for that.
Right? I think people who are blind are going to be able to see. People who can't hear are going to be able to hear. People who can't walk are going to be able to walk. I think we're going to start curing cancer. Google's got some great programs going there. They've got this thing called Gemini, MED Gemini, which is kind of like their kind of like a Google Gemini just focusing on medical. They have a business called AlphaFold, which they're identifying new proteins to help find these cures for everything.
Amazing.
Right? So that's coming. I think human longevity, there's a lot of science going around human longevity. So I think there's people living, depending on who you talk to, you can talk to experts. They're saying, look, with AI, we're going to be able to hopefully live a lot longer. Right? I think in the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to be entering into the robotics world, right? Which is interesting because I think China right now is going to dominate in that space unless the U.S. gets its act together.
Interesting.
When it comes to manufacturing here. And
Did you hear Gary Vee say that like in I don't know how many years, but like you'll have a grandchild that's like dating a non-human?
Yeah, I think that's going to even be sooner than that.
Interesting.
I mean, look, but there's a lot of risk there too, right? And we'll talk about the concerns of AI, in a minute. But if you think about a connected planet, we're all going to be in smart cars. I didn't say electric cars. I said a smart car. So meaning as I'm driving down the road, my car's talking to all the cars around me. And if something happens, it veers, they all adjust accordingly. And the number one cause of emergency room visits is car accidents. If we can reduce that by 70, 80, 90%, because all the cars are talking to each other, right? Or they're robo cars like Waymos. Have you been in a Waymo yet?
No.
Oh, it's awesome.
Is it?
The Waymos are amazing. Like,
I don't know.
It's crazy. I've been in Waymo in Phoenix. I've been in Waymo in San Francisco. And it's got a steering wheel in there, but it doesn't need it. Oh, they're fantastic. They're easy. They're easy to use. It's awesome.
Okay.
Drive smooth. It's great. I highly recommend people go on a Waymo. I loved it. I had no issues. But, we'll all be that. So that those are things that can happen. But now you talk about what are the concerns and challenges? What are the fears? And there's some real legitimate concerns people need to be aware about. To me, I think the thing that could derail this entire AI world is going to be things like deepfakes. To me, deepfakes are absolutely the one thing that needs to get regulated somehow on a global basis. Like the world has to come together on deepfakes, because there's nothing stopping anybody from taking your face and 3 to 10 seconds of your voice and have you say and do anything, right? Same with my voice.
There's certain generations right now too that like they're so susceptible to believing it, and they're it's crazy because they'll be like sending. Like I know some of my staff members, like their grandmother will send them like a video that they found, and it's like it's not really that person saying that, but they're like convinced, it's like truth.
Yeah, no, it is, and so it's just going to get better to the point where it's going to be so realistic you won't be able to distinguish. But that's where
it's pretty close right now. Sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, there's no way that person would say that, but it's so crazy how realistic it looks.
But Meta, Google, Apple, all the big tech companies who are providing the ability to view the content, they're going to have to find ways to police that content and put watermarks on it, identify this as fake, whatever, right? They're going to have to figure out how to do that. And so that's kind of one thing we need to watch out for. But this deepfake stuff is really scary. That's the thing that I think could potentially really derail a lot of what's the promise of AI is all the deepfake stuff. And then, there's going to be some job concerns, right? I think the legal industry is in for a rude awakening in the next couple of years. In the next couple of years, I think over time, and I happen to somewhat agree with Bill Gates on this one, where he says most doctors will be kind of some sort of AI related thing. I think what will happen is a lot of AI will be triaged. We'll be doing a lot of the triage. So you walk in, the AI will check your blood pressure and all
it's
those.
It's more accurate though, honestly.
So you've got that. I think robotic technology is coming to where your doctor the best doctor in the world maybe for your issue might be in Spain, but you're on the hospital bed in New York. Well, they'll figure out how to do that through robotics and AI. So look, I think all of that stuff is coming down the road. So what does that mean for jobs? I don't know, but I think the thing to be thinking about down the road is you've heard people, Diamandis, a lot of these people say in the next 10 to 20 years, we could be living in a world of abundance. I mean, you start thinking about that. And Bill Gates says we're going to have a 2-day work week instead of a 5-day work week. I mean, then you wonder, what do you do for the rest of your time? And,
that's interesting.
My answer to that is, well, what do you want to do? You have no more excuse not to do what you want to do, right? But then where's the money going to come from? Is it universal basic income? Is it just going to be there? I don't know. But those are the things that we have to figure out and address. And it's going to be up to the Gen X world working with some millennials to go figure that out, because Gen Z and Alpha and Beta buying that, we need to lead in that space. I'm just afraid that we're just not really equipped to kind of lead in that space right now. And we have to go figure that out. And we have to figure that out on a global basis. And right now, God knows, nobody can agree on anything in this world. So
I know that is not true. Imagine a 2-day work week.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, but the thing about that 2-day work week is that how many times do people go to work and on the weekends over and they're like, oh God, I gotta go back to work, right? I wish I had another day, right? So okay, maybe it's not 2 days, maybe it's 3-day work week, whatever it might be. I don't know what it's going to be, but the point is, and the takeaway is that there'll be no more excuses from you doing whatever you want to do. Now, where the money's going to come from and how that's going to happen, that will be seen. Look, I think, I read something the other day where over time, all these AI companies are going to have to pay some sort of duty or tariff, and I hate to use that word tariff, or some sort of commission to all the people out there whose image and likeness and content they're using. So just like how Steve Jobs created the iTunes store to license music, because before it was all that Napster stuff.
Right, yes.
So the same thing's going to happen here. So for example, OpenAI just entered into a relationship with Washington Post to use their content. So they're going to be entering into all these partnerships to pay for that. And you have all these image generating stuff and the video generators. So over time, they'll figure that out. They'll do licensing programs, but there'll also be licensing of us, of my face, my likeness, your face, your likeness, people listening, right?
Even more reason to get your content out there.
Right. So we'll probably be getting some sort of fee from them on those kinds of things, but who knows where it's going to go. But I don't want to derail the conversation. All I'm simply saying is that there are concerns. There's going to be challenges. This is not all hunky dory. This is not just all, stars and stripes and apple
Right.
pie, there's going to be problems. And so we just have to figure out how to solve those problems together as a community. And hopefully we can come together there because it's going to be really important for the future.
So would you recommend like just because I think it was Mark Cuban that was like, oh, if I was whatever age, he was like, I'd be spending all like every waking hour learning about AI. And I think that like kind of going back to what you're saying, it's like, it's such a broad term to be like, learn about AI. And it's like, so how do you really learn about AI? Is it just more like you doing it? Is it actual like research? Is it spending time with people like you or going to conferences where they're talking about it?
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
it's
I
all,
feel like everything's
yeah.
like regurgitated information also.
Well, everything.
Right now.
Well, the good thing about AI, right? It's changing every day. So there's something
Right.
new everything. There's something new every minute to learn when it comes to AI.
Right.
But the answer to the question is probably a little bit of everything. But
Yeah.
Mark Cuban is right. So Mark is right. I have two sons, 24 and 21, and my one son is graduating next week.
Oh,
And
congrats.
so, thank you. And so, I keep telling him, man, he did business technology as a major, and I go, look, you got to start embracing more AI stuff. And he's doing that. He's starting to embrace more AI. Like if I could go back and tell my 21-year-old self anything, had AI been around back then? No, that's it. AI is the future. Learn prompting, learn how to communicate, learn why data is important. Learn how to use that competitively as your advantage. Use it to help do product design. I'll give you a small example. So I was just at a YPO conference in Barcelona in February, and this YPO member came up to me and says, Rajeev, I got to talk to you about my son. Okay, what's up? And we were at Soho House in Barcelona, and he goes, hey, I got to talk to you about this. I said, okay, what's up? He goes, my son's 18, and he just dropped out of school. I go, oh, you sound really happy that he dropped out of school. Well, I'm not happy he dropped out of school, but he dropped out of school for a good reason. I said, okay, what's up? He's been playing with ChatGPT for the last 2 years, because ChatGPT, people don't realize, is only 2.5 years old.
Yeah.
And it's, but the minute it came out, he started playing with it at 16.
Oh, wow.
And a little over a year ago, he decided he's going to create his own company. Okay, well, what did he do? He used ChatGPT to help design a brand new nasal strip
Oh, interesting.
to help people breathe better.
Yeah.
He then used ChatGPT to help design it. He used the different marketing tools out there, the Canvas of the world, to help design the whatever. He then went to Alibaba, found a manufacturer, and in China, they've now manufactured it. He's got a Shopify store, which is using their AI tools.
Yep.
He drop ships it across Europe, right, using Amazon and their Shopify tools. He's got only one employee in the Philippines that handle customer service. And even that, he's looking to figure out how to get rid of that one employee, right, to have AI do all that. But he feels like that personalization right now is important because he's only 18 and,
Right.
he wants something available when he's sleeping because he's in Barcelona. And so he's going to do $100,000 this month in nasal strips. He's 18 years old.
Stop.
He's going to do 1.3. He's on pace this year to do. He's growing every month, so he's on pace, I think, to do like $1.5 million of revenue. And
Okay, me and Chad are going to have some time.
And here's the thing,
weekend.
and it's all ChatGPT comes up with his marketing hooks. Canva, he creates all of his little, Instagram posts, his TikTok posts. And he's got some influencers now, and he's getting ready. The reason why he dropped out of school is because he's getting ready to move to Dubai, and he wants to move to live in Dubai because there's more influencers there to help expand the business, and then start looking at other products to bring on. So his goal next year is to do $3 to $5 million of revenue, and I think he's on pace to do it. And he has one employee.
I hear stories like that. I'm like, how hard I have to work for $1 million.
Right, but look, I think someplace somewhere there is a kid sitting in his or her parents' basement, or their room, or their living room, or their parents' house, or wherever they are, building the next $1 billion business with only 1 or 2 or 3 employees. So that's the thing, right? So I think you're going to see entrepreneurship explode.
Yeah,
for
sure.
I think you're going to see new companies
come out. I think we're already
out.
seeing that, really.
I think you're going to see ton of new companies coming out, but you won't need as many employees per company. So if you had a startup, let's say you went to Silicon Valley, you raised money 5 years ago. Okay, we're going to raise $50 million. Well, you might have to have 100 employees or whatever the number is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the future, you might only need 10 employees instead of 50 employees. So I think you'll just have more companies, but just less employees. So it'll just get spread out. Who knows? And when you think about jobs and where it's going, like, I can tell you there's no way when Steve Jobs created the iPhone, did he ever think you'd be ordering an Uber off your iPhone? Or,
right.
Or that you could go onto Airbnb app and go stay at you know,
Right. Or who, yeah, exactly.
at a house on the south of France, you know what I mean? Or, that you could do Zoom or TikTok or Reels or what, I mean, that just, that whole, like, he knew that he could build a platform and he knew that could go somewhere, but it just enabled so many new companies, right? All these companies are out there now. Think about all the mobile gaming companies,
Yeah.
all the new companies out there because of the iPhone and the Android phones, right? Think about it enabled, right? So that's what we're still waiting to see now is what is AI enabling? What are all these new companies?
What do you think about like the future of education then, like institutional education and just more formal? Like, do you think it's even going to be necessary for kids to go to college anymore?
I think so. I think more so. I think what's going to happen is, I think you're going to start to see education morph. I think right now kids can just go to ChatGPT and say, write me a paper on the American Revolution.
Right.
And they're smart. They could say, "Hey, I'm 15 years old." Make it sound like a 15-year-old, and
Right.
and then they can go into these. And there's other tools out there that can humanize
Yeah.
the report and whatever they turn in, right? And right now, I think a lot of times what happens in education, it feels like a participation grade, right? Okay, you got the paper, you wrote it, you turned it in, you're done, right? You read the paper or whatever, right? But I think what's going to happen in the future is I think the kids are going to have to really understand the content in the paper. Why did Washington cross the Delaware? And I think what will happen in the future is literally, and I'm going to ask people to suspend disbelief for just a second because it's coming, which is, I think you're going to start seeing more augmented reality, virtual reality type things entering the classroom in the future. I think you're going to see, if you want to see Washington crossing the Delaware, well, you'll put on your smart goggles and you literally will see in your classroom Washington crossing the Delaware, right?
That type
and
of learning style
that's going to be 10, 15 years down the road.
Right.
But also, there's going to be sensors in the classroom. A lot of classrooms have smart boards. And, what you'll do with the AI and the teacher, I think, will become a conductor in the classroom. So the AI will ask the 30 students a question. The AI will know immediately what 10 students got it, what 10 students, okay, they struggled a little bit, but they eventually got it, and what 10 students didn't get it at all. So if you're then the teacher, what do? You do you go spend time with those 20 kids who got it or kind of got it, or do you go spend time with the 10 kids who didn't get it?
Right.
You go spend time with the 10 kids who didn't get it, and then the AI adjusts and says, okay, hey, let's take some extra time to go through this step by step. In the meantime, the AI is then, while the teacher's working with them, the AI then is helping the kids go to the next level in the question, right? Or the next phase, right? So I think that's some of the things you're going. If people want to see a really cool AI tool in action for education, there's a website called Khan, Khan.
Okay.
Migo. So it's KhanMigo.
What is it?
Khanmigo. It's basically an online AI-driven math and education platform.
Okay.
That teaches kids math. It's by the Khan Academy guy, Sal Khan. So, but it's a great place to learn math, and it teaches, and it's amazing, and it's a great tutor, and it's fantastic. Like, if you want to see AI in action, check out Sal, S-A-L, Khan, Khan, and his son doing a math problem together. Go on YouTube, watch that video, and it's awesome to see how the AI helps. Oh, wow. And the question becomes, I ask, is how is it any different if you had a tutor sitting in India or the Philippines communicating with you on Slack or on Teams or on Zoom doing the same thing? There's really not much of a difference because it sounds like a human, right?
Right.
The accent feels like a human. So that whole tutoring role, the industry is going to change massively.
I could see that. I mean,
and at the end of the day, like, do you have a hobby?
I have some hobbies. Yeah. I feel like I garden. I'm really into self-development and like meditation and.
Okay. So if you could have anybody who could teach you meditation and self-development in the world, living or dead,
Deepak Chopra.
Deepak Chopra. Okay.
I love him.
All right. So a lot of people say Deepak Chopra, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. All you have to do now is go to the mobile app or go to the desktop app of ChatGPT or Gemini.
I think he even has like his own like little ChatGPT.
I'm sure he does.
But tell me your problems.
Yeah. But the point is you can say, hey, be Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
And walk me through a meditation. Or, hey, I like to do meditate, but I find my mind wandering all the time.
Yeah.
Be like Deepak Chopra and walk me through the 3 ways I can do this. Or, maybe you're into health and wellness and you want to understand, how to intermittent fast or whatever. Like how do you do a 72-hour fast and then break that fast? Like how do you maintain, like, or whatever it might be.
Right.
Like, if you think Deepak Chopra can help you, great. If let's say you wanted to learn how to write a movie script, right?
That's true.
If you want to learn how to movie script, well, who are you going to ask? Well, probably Spielberg or Alfred Hitchcock or whomever.
No,
right?
that's actually, I was literally just thinking because I love, one of my big hobbies is like producing. So I love like thinking of show ideas. It's how I first came to LA. I sold my show to Lionsgate. Like I love like that world. I just don't have a lot of time to play in it. But I was thinking, I was like, 'cause I have a really good idea for a scripted series, but I don't really know how to write those scripts. So I'm like, I wonder if I could use chat for that.
No, you can. I'll give you an example. I've written 3 movie scripts.
Oh, you have? I
Yeah.
love how people are always connected, like in the media market. We
Yeah.
always have these like great
Yeah.
ideas.
So I've written
for
3 scripts and I use First Draft,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
But I imagine over time, First Draft will integrate a ChatGPT like tool that helps
Yeah.
me figure out this scene, or I'm stuck, or how can I could go in there, how do I punch up this dialogue?
Right.
It'll help me
How do I
punch up that
turn this
dialogue.
into a dialogue?
How do I like
Right.
this is what I really want the scene to be, but I'm struggling. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
And can you how does this dialogue fit with the rest with the previous
Yeah.
20 pages, you know what I mean, or whatever, right? So I think some of those tools are coming to help, and so I think that will all be there. So it'll be interesting where that goes. I think that's why also I think you see the writer's strike that happened, and I think there's some concern there, and I think they have a legitimate to be concerned, especially when you see tools like the video generators out there coming at Sora and these other VO2 and these things. There's some concern there, right? Because I think over time the stuff just gonna get better. Right now the stuff is fairly generic. You can't do much. Like maximum you can do is like maybe 3 or 5 seconds on a Sora video, but if someone's really patient, you can create 53-second videos, which is literally a 3-minute commercial, a 2-3-minute commercial, and you have to pay an actor, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
but that's when I think all that licensing can be back to the whole licensing thing,
Yep.
think about all that stuff and where it's going. But look, but I
Just
think
adapt. People need to adapt. It reminds me of like when honestly Canva first came out and designers would be like so insistent on only using Illustrator, only using Photoshop, whatever. And I remember like working with big creative teams inside of some of the companies we worked with. And I would just be like, use Canva and get this infographic out because I can't have you taking 6 weeks for this. I need this done now. And they would be like, no, we don't do that. We only use these. We're a professional. Da, da, da. I'm like, but you're not evolving. And I'm coming out with stuff and you're like, how did you do that? And I'm not even a designer. So it's like that threat and you want to just hold on to what you have, but it's like, you have to evolve. It's going to evolve no matter what. And if you can't do it better, faster, cheaper, like someone else is going to.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm
100%.
like right now, my advice to writers and anybody in the creative space. It's like, use these tools to your advantage. You have like a unique opportunity to take your ability, your unique ability, and turn out more stuff faster. Instead of having one script you're sitting on hoping to get picked up, why don't you have 10?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Either you do it or someone else is going to do
Gonna
it.
do it, right?
So might as well be you.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, on that note, I think that's a wrap.
Thank
I
you.
really loved having you on. I knew you were going to be a phenomenal guest.
My pleasure.
I'm just such a fan of your work. I follow everything you do. So thank you so much for taking the time to come out. I hope that if you're listening, please go follow Rajeev. He's just revolutionary in the AI space and will be really helpful to you. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.